Let's call this meeting to order. Can I get a motion, please, that the agenda for the October 15th organizational meeting of council be adopted as presented? Councillor Curry will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council set the council and meeting and committee of the whole meeting schedule as noted in the agenda package? Councillor Wilkinson will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried.
No, I was going to make a comment. That's right.
Can I get a motion, please, that council set the council and committee of the whole summer meeting schedule as noted in the agenda package? Councillor Byer will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Did you have a question?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
I was trying to find, I was on the wrong one.
Okay.
This is the boards and committees, correct?
We're not there yet.
Oh, okay, then I'm open the wrong one, sorry.
Okay. Can I get a motion, please, that members of council be appointed to the boards and committees in accordance with the attached schedule, their appointments to be in effect until the 2020 organizational meeting of council? Councillor Bevan will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Chenard.
Okay, I'm going to be, even though I'm pleased with mine, I'm going to be speaking and voting against this. I think on the ones, the youth council one to me is, I do understand it was short term, but because it is something new, we should maybe give some of the other councillors an opportunity, because I believe working with youth council is very important. There should have been some fairness in this. Am I allowed to say more than that?
Go ahead.
Okay, the other one is the building committee, I think I'm saying it right. Where last time we voted on who was to be appointed to the board, and this time we're just choosing two people, so I'm questioning that fact. And I don't have my notes on here, so I can't find the notes, so that's two comments for now. If I think another one, I will bring it once someone else has a chance to talk.
All right, any other questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Councillor Wilkinson, were you in favor or were you opposed?
In favor.
In favor, thank you. Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council rotate the position of deputy mayor every 4 months between each of the councillors, and such rotation occurs in alphabetical order as noted in the memo? Councillor Wilkinson will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that the memorandum and attached information with regard to legislative responsibilities of council be received for information? Councillor Sorensen will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council accept this memorandum regarding important dates in 2020 for information? Councillor Byer will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Chenard.
Okay, on these notes, the strategic planning session, I'm not in favor of doing it in May. I believe that we should if we're going to do it early in the year, let's do it January, February, and then we can discuss the year. But to do it in May, we're 5 months in, and that gives 7 months for administration to figure it out. I believe it should be done. We were quite successful in September. July obviously did not work for everybody. But I mean, for information, I think we need to rediscuss with council what would be an appropriate date. I do not like May. May seems to be too awkward of a time.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Bevan.
On our budget workshop, instead of doing it on a Saturday, I'd like to do it on a Monday to a Friday or whatever. You know, this way all of our staff is here in the office or something like that. It only goes at 3 o'clock. If we were to do it on a Tuesday, we'd be here at 9 o'clock, do it, have a 3-hour, 4-hour break, come back in for a council meeting, whatever. And we don't have to bring anybody in, and nobody ties up a Saturday that, you know, Saturdays are important to people with family and everything else, and that I'd like to see it going through the week, Monday to Friday sometime.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Wilkinson.
I'd also like to comment on the budget workshop on a Saturday. I think it's unfortunate that all the staff have to come in for that. Yeah, I would like to see it done through the week, and I guess if necessary, divide it in half, do 2 different days if people are working and they can just get a limited amount of time off in the day.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Chenard.
That was my second note. Also, I do not like the Saturday. I believe believe, fairness to staff, we should be doing it during the weekday, and I would echo the same, we can maybe do it in 2 separate days.
All right, any other questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. And questions from media and public regarding items from this council meeting? All right, can I get a motion, please, that the 2019 organizational meeting of council be adjourned? Councillor Byer will make that motion. All those in favor? Motion carried. All right. Can I get a motion, please, that the agenda for the October 15th, 2019 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented? Councillor Chouinard will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that the minutes of the October 1st, 2019 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented? Councillor Bevan will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. We have no public hearings, but we do have a delegation tonight from Grand Prairie Regional College. So I'd like to ask our delegation to please come forward and introduce themselves, and we'll also introduce ourselves around the table here as well.
Thank you. I'm Susan Hunter. I'm the Regional Development Manager for GPRC Edson.
I'm Lacey Riley. I'm the Program Coordinator and Student Advisor for GPRC Edson. And we also have Debbie Seelan, who is our Site Liaison here in Edson.
Awesome,
Who
thank
was
you.
brought with us.
Councillor Bevan, if you want to start the introductions.
Trevor Bevan, Town Councillor.
Jackie Curry.
Jean Chenard, Town Councillor.
Kevin Zahira,
Janet Wilkinson.
Troy Sorensen.
Crystal Byer.
welcome.
Thank
Take it
you for
away.
having us, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for having us, councillors. We're here tonight to introduce ourselves as GPRC Edson. GPRC stands for Grand Prairie Regional College. We have a campus in the provincial building here in Edson, and we wanted to tell you a little bit about us so that we can start to build partnerships with the town of Edson and GPRC Edson to help serve our community. Susan's gonna start.
Perfect. So we want to start with our big vision, which is that we're recognized by its learning communities, Edson being one of it, for leadership in educational excellence. Our mission is creating and connecting to knowledge, experience, and community one life at a time. That last part's particularly important to us in rural and remote parts of Alberta, where we certainly bring in each student one at a time and want to make sure that they have access to post-secondary education. Our values, we're student-centered, we're accountable, we use integrity, and we're innovative, respect, and passion. And these are the values that guide us. You've met our staff. And Lacey can speak to our programs as the student advisor, and she is also the program coordinator for GPRC Edson.
Okay, so some of the current programs that we have in Edson is academic upgrading. Academic upgrading is one that we are really promoting in the Edson area. For the academic upgrading, we are working alongside the Learning Connection and Edson District Community Learning to find where the best place for our students to go. For GPRC, our academic upgrading students are students that are looking to get into post-secondary. They're students that just need one course or two courses to be accepted into the program that they want to go with. Our next course is a business administration. We have what we call career in a year courses. Business administration is one of those courses. Some of the other courses for career in a year or career in a year are office administration and unit clerk, as well as dental clerk. These are courses where our students can come from 1 year and they walk out with a certificate that allows them to go out into the workplace and find a job. Early Learning and Child Care and Educational Assistant are two of our programs that are really booming, especially in the Edson area. They're full. These are courses that'll typically take 1 year to 2 years for students to walk away with the level of education that they are looking to acquire. And then they will be working either in the schools, in the daycares, in the day homes, the Boys and Girls Club. And we have many, like I said, many students looking to learn with those with us. We also administer GED exams. We work kind of alongside the Learning Connection with that. They offer GED classes, and then the students come and they write their exams through us. And then University Transfer, which is Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Education, Bachelor of Commerce. They can start their first year or two here in Edson before they transfer to an institution outside of our town. The thing that is really exciting for us are the Bachelor of Social Work and the welding programs. These are programs that are Edson specific. We are offering them in Edson. The Bachelor of Social Work is called a Learning Circle. We are partnered with the University of, Calgary, University of Calgary, sorry, my bad. And we have what are called learning circles. So we have students traveling from all over the province every second week to Edson on a Friday evening and a Saturday and studying their Bachelor of Social Work. We are bringing students from Bonnyville, students from Edson, Hinton, Jasper, students from Fort McMurray, all to our community to do this innovative program. Welding is a partnership that we have with the Parkland Composite High School and Grand Yellowhead School Division, and the students there have dual credit courses. So they are not only studying for college level, but they are also getting high school level credits. When they have completed that, they are then eligible to take their first year welding exam. And they are already advancing onto the workplace.
One thing I wanted to mention about university transfer is because we have so many strong partnerships that go 2+2, so you do your first 2 years in Edson and then transfer over to a larger center. We know that for community attraction and retention strategies for our youth, the less time that they spend in a bigger center, the more likely they are to return to their hometown. So for the 2+2 programs, our university transfer, we strongly encourage folks to stay for those first 2 years. They are surrounded already with their support systems. They already know their town, and then they can start their post-secondary journey, moving and saving a lot of money just for the 2 years. So those are why those are popular. Did you want to speak to this one?
Sure. GPRC, as I mentioned, is located in the provincial building. One of the services that we offer that most people may not realize is we are an exam testing center. What that means is that anybody going through any kind of education, whether it be Athabasca, Bow Valley, Lakeland College, St. Nate, their nursing exams, their real estate exams, healthcare exams, insurance exams, they can come and take all of those exams at our facility. And we proctor the exam. And it is then recognized by all of those other places. So they don't have to drive to the city to take their exam and have a proctor in place.
We find that folks drive all over from the province, not only here, but BC. They come in from across Western Canada to come to Edson and Hinton to take testing. Not only are our rates lower, but we are one of the certified testing centers. We have the clear glass that's viewable because we are checking on folks while they're writing, and it's very specific for a lot of the testing requirements, and we meet all the requirements to be certified in that.
And they can get in a lot quicker because we're a small location.
Sometimes when folks are visiting from Halifax or they're flying in to visit relatives for the summer and they're from the States, they can all test here while they're in school. So that's a nice perk for visitors to Edson as well. So future possibilities, we're always thinking about growth, particularly for towns like Edson where you have strong industry, and we know that apprenticeships can do well here. Many of the exams that we administer for our students are in power engineering through NATE. We would like to see power engineering come here because, again, industry related, more trades oriented, and we're very strong in that at GPRC and would love to see that for the Edson community. So some of the things that we are continuing to do, and tonight's an example of that, is reaching out to community. We know that growth of regional colleges happens most when the town is arm in arm with a local college. And when we grow that college, it attracts other post-secondary opportunities because they know that it's a success. So by growing your local regional college, you invite other possibilities for partnerships and innovative programming. Last week we did with the town of Hinton for their FCSS. We did a 4-hour training from everything from difficult customers and managing expectations. Folks get angrier, faster we find, from communications to team building. And then we'll do another 4-hour session follow up with the town of Hinton. And we'd love to do that for Edson small and medium businesses because we know that it helps the community to get these skills and to apply them immediately. So our corporate training arm is strong in this region, and we also work in Jasper with some major players there, as well as Grand Cache, where we teach welding in the penitentiary there. So some community outreach, tonight being one of those, tasting events, general interest courses. Another thing that we're noticing with community attraction and retention strategies are quality of life as it relates to events that are general interest. So wine tastings, chocolate tastings, a course in writing your memoirs, a will taking or will writing course. Those types of things tend to keep community more engaged. Now, this is to enhance what's already happening. It's not to replace or compete with things that both the town are offering and our community partners with education. So we just want to offer more to our folks. And one thing that has been successful in Hinton are the summer camps for children. Many of these are computer programming, so coding, robotics, Lego, very strong curriculum and tied to what you'd see in larger centers. It is the same curriculum that's taught in Edmonton and across Western Canada. So if those are of interest to you, let us know and we'll start working on that for our students here. Do you want to speak a bit to this?
So some of the new initiatives that we are taking, Susan spoke about the corporate and industry training, the general interest courses. The other thing that we have available at GPRC is the room bookings. So a lot of people are not familiar with our facility, and once they walk into our facility, they say, wow, you have a big space here. So we have these rooms that are available for bookings, for different events, for different meetings. On top of that, we then have the technology with our video conferencing. Because we are associated so strongly with Grand Prairie and Grand Prairie Regional College, and our students are learning every day in these classrooms, our technology and our SuperNet is top notch. So for those meetings and those Zoom conferences and all of those other things that are going on, our facility is a great place to host those. Room bookings is another one. We have open houses coming up on October 24th is the one located here in Edson. Debbie has some more invitations as well if you would like to grab one of those before we go. And we have cake on that day. So
If for no other reason.
if for no other reason, there's cake.
10-minute stop in.
From 1:30 to 3:30 to come in and check out our facility to see what we're all about, to have a little one-on-one chat. We would love to see you on that day.
We also find that if you are recruiting talent as a town and to local, whether they be school boards or industry partners, if you mention that there's a post-secondary educational institute in your town, we find that people are more engaged in possibly considering living here. They can teach, they can think of a general interest course that they can start teaching on the side. There's an exclusiveness that comes with being a college instructor, professor. I did want to mention that for our open house, I want to thank Councillor Byer for sharing our invitation on Facebook and saying that it was great to see a college in Edson and support us. So thank you for that. It helps so much when people come together and talk about us and talk us up and share that so that we can grow here and cultivate that soil for rich educational experiences. So youth outreach, you can speak to this, Lacey, if you would like to. Or?
Yeah, so youth outreach, it goes back to our main core right now is with the dual credit welding program. We're really excited about the dual credit welding program. We have students for the last 2 years. This will be our 3rd year running this program. Our students are both male and female, and so they're walking out, as I said before, with that first year certificate. Beyond that, we would like to introduce general interest welding. So welding for teens, before they have to commit to this whole program. Welding for women, welding for youth, and bring it out there. The summer camps is another example of our youth outreach. Getting our youth involved in our college is a prime objective for us. For them to know that we're here and we're an option is what's going to grow us in Edson.
We also do a lot of retraining. So even though this youth program is strong and GPRC has invested a lot into the equipment in that high school so that we can all profit from that, because there are some adult learners as well that are involved. We find that folks are coming back after either being laid off in industry or wanting something more and taking a risk and coming into colleges. You know, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans, as John Lennon once said, and so things happen in life, and so we see folks come in not only at 17 but at 70 still wanting to explore what they could be when they grew up. So children and youth outreach, these have been very popular programs. They've been sold out, and they basically share the insights of, well, how society's changed. So Home Alone, basically you have a lot of times when there are two parents who are either working or outside the home, and the children come home after school or at lunch from ages 8 and up. And this just gives them some basic knowledge about how to be savvy about risk that's associated with being home alone, and giving them more confidence in that way for them and their guardians or parents. And then the babysitter training happens. It's also a weekend course, and it's been very popular here with training from applying first aid to do's and don'ts when you have young people in your care.
The nice thing with both of these programs is our instructor is also local. So not only are we pulling in local children, we're also pulling in local staff.
And I'm glad that you've mentioned local. We find that when we have local learners and local subject matter experts who teach, whether they're a realtor who says, I'm going to teach you how to stage your home to sell it better, whether we have across the board professionals who are willing to do an hour general interest course on a Tuesday night at 7, one time only, doesn't have to be a long commitment for an entire semester. People are more likely to come because you're at stores. We can give you a postcard to say, hey, I'm teaching, in 3 weeks' time. I'd really love you to come out. And then you get 5 or 6 people from Edson, taught by someone in Edson. We really want that homegrown feel because we know that has been successful in communities like Edson.
So some of our key linkages for growth and success is seeing the college as an important part of the town of Edson. We want to be part of the growth in this town. We want to be part of the future. Town and economic development collaborations, community attraction and retention strategies, and that's something that we have been working on as well. Where do we see us as part of this puzzle? Joining different boards, being on different sections, talking to different people, and associating with that industry support and partnership and work placements. A lot of our programs have a work placements portion of it. So we need to make those connections with the different industry so that we can talk to them, they can be part of the conversation, and then we can deliver what they are looking for. Nonprofits and agency referrals, chamber and conference linkages, high school and school division buy-in. This one's especially important for me. Growing up, being raised in this town, if this was an option when I was in high school, I wouldn't have went away. And so one of the main key things on my agenda is to make those connections with Parkland, with HRH, with YKCS, with the Learning Connection, so that they know that we are here and we are an option.
We also know that when we diversify the economy and have post-secondary present in towns, it won't necessarily be a college town maybe, but it can certainly have that arm of your community that is there. We're actually usually in direct opposite. So when industry is down, our educational is up because people say, I want to make a change in my life, or I have some time off, or I can get a grant for retraining because I was laid off or downsized. So it is something that can help a community stand strong when other things have sort of ebbed away. And it doesn't have to be an either or, but we find that it's a beautiful linkage when it works together and we help support one another.
Other GPRC West Yellowhead locations. So we had mentioned that we are in the GPRC West Yellowhead region. We also have a campus in Hinton, Jasper, and Grand Cache. The beautiful thing about the Edson campus is that I am now located here. This is the first time that we have ever had a program coordinator and student advisor located in Edson, which makes it especially accessible for our citizens here in Edson. I also travel to Hinton and Jasper and Grand Cache and make the linkages there as well. And actually one of our students in Grand Cache was a former student that I went to school with in Edson. So it's interesting when you find people that are relocated to another area.
Exactly. And what we have in Edson is a depth and breadth of staff. So Debbie Sealing here has been with the organization for 14 years here in Edson and administers and is administrator for the campus, right? So knows so much when it comes to the depth and breadth of programming. And Lacey was recruited, she was an instructor with us for several years. And we really wanted to expand to Edson, even though Hinton is our regional campus. Edson is our biggest growth area because you have had the highest numbers for trending for almost a decade. So this tells us that even though you're slightly smaller population-wise than Hinton, your post-secondary appetite has already been cultivated here. So we're investing in a full-time program coordinator and student advisor with the college. So our ask, well, the first thing we want to do is thank you for welcoming our delegation tonight. We find Edson to be super friendly. We go to each community to do a delegation and just love the warm and welcoming feel of Edson. And although I am located out of Hinton, I really, really enjoy coming to Edson and working with our Edson colleagues and community members. To have your support in helping us grow is key to us. As I mentioned, if we don't have the town or the mayor or the councillors at our events or talking up college as part of the conversation and inserting us some way to hold space for us, it's very, very difficult for us to get in front of major stakeholders for either sponsoring a new building, starting a new program, getting a cohort to 15 students and growing our college. We really need you. So our ask is to continue having your support and think of things that maybe are turned on their head and have you thought about this? And we have open door policies and are always opening to going above and beyond to make something work and be innovative and creative. If you can think of connections for us that we may not have thought of or mentioned tonight for both your workplace and teams, large or small scale, new programs or work placements. So some of our programs at GPRC have something called advisory councils. For example, our office administration in Grand Prairie has people who sit in various businesses and say, this is what we need for office skills. We want QuickBooks instead of Sage accounting, for example. We want this and that. So twice a year, these folks come together as volunteers for us, and they inform our post-secondary. The nice thing about college, and not to compete against university because we have those partnerships, is universities are primarily Senate related. That means everything has to go through a Senate, and everything is controlled by that Senate. Colleges don't quite have that. If we think of a new program and we want to run it, yes, there's some ministry approvals for credentials, but otherwise we are extremely flexible and nimble. And we have to be to survive in a world that is responding to industry, which, as we know, trends change daily. So we think that, or we know that when we have that ability to have work placements or volunteers present even twice a year on a council, if you would like to serve on a committee with us, we would love to have you, because this will be the first time in West Yellowhead that we are starting an advisory committee for. We're going to start with office administration. And help us tell our story. We know we have alumni out there. They're right here in Edson. They are in Edmonton. They are leading companies across Canada and sometimes the world. They've been homegrown here, and we want to celebrate you. So if you are an alumni, if you know someone, if your child has learned here, if your niece went on and she's a nurse now, we would love to hear about it and share and inspire others to say, that can be for me. And we know that careers are resilient when people are trained and retrained. There's nothing like experience, and we don't want to replace work experience, and we don't want to say you have to go to school to be a success. We know that some of the top entrepreneurs in the world didn't finish their education, but we also know that when there are downturns, people need skills to draw on, and education is a more and more requirement for supervisory, especially, and I look at the MEDs in the room, that there is something to be said for those supervisory higher levels of education. So for that and for everything else, we thank you. We want to attract more students here to Edson. We know that when people learn in community, they're likely to stay in community, and we want to be that post-secondary apprenticeship and contract trainer for you.
All right, thank you, Susan. Thank you, Lacey, for the very informative presentation, and thank you for all the work that you do in our community. We'll open up the floor to questions. Councillor Chenard, Bevan, and then Councillor Wilkinson.
I have two questions to ask, one and then one later.
Ask them both right now.
My first one, I noticed you have welding in there. Have you looked at the trucking industry? Because at one time I believe you offered an air brake course, and because of the new regulations coming for Class 1 especially, they're going to involve a lot of classroom. Is that something you're going to consider?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Chenard, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that. We actually have an air brakes course running in Hinton tomorrow. And that is something that we are actually reaching out to industry right now. Our site liaison in Jasper has been making calls to different industries. I spoke with an industry manager tonight who said, hey, I talked to your site liaison in Jasper about the air brakes. So that is definitely something that is coming back to our area, and that we are building again. It will be coming again. Tomorrow is not the last day possible. It will be happening again, and that will be pushed out there.
Well, the one that's most important, because the changing in the regulations, you're gonna involve like that 120 hours in classroom and
Yes.
stuff coming to class 1. That's gonna be very expensive.
Yes.
So they're estimating at like $9,000 a
Correct,
driver.
it's close to
so-
10. Yes, so
Okay.
that is the biggest change that's happened in the industry. There have been more regulations put on semi-truck drivers. As we know, there have been some reasons for that. So yes, the price and the amount of time and curriculum to be covered for that training has increased. How GPRC has responded is we are currently working out a payment plan with folks, because coming up with 10 grand in someone's pocket, liquid, is hard to get a hold of. So we are working on, it's not set in stone yet, so I won't be putting that out to the media just yet, but we're working on a payment plan option for folks to almost prepay in installments before they take their learning, so they can budget for it. And then there are different sponsorships or grants that they can find for that training, but we are, I think, the first in Alberta to have followed all the new certifications and be up to speed and ready for truck training, which is already happening in Grand Prairie, and that we would do here if we have the numbers to do a whole cohort. Otherwise, it is running out of Grand Prairie currently, and Air Brakes is running out of Hinton and with West Fraser as well.
My second question, when you said you don't want to make this a college town, would it be a possibility that GPRC could be, and I'm gonna refer similar to a NATE, but if you could do longer term training so people could actually have classroom training and make it into like a college town?
Absolutely. So right now there is college training and there are instructors that are on the ground. But when we compare communities like Edson, slightly different population, but I do look at Dawson Creek, Northern Lights College. That is a town of just shy of 10,000, and they have 1,500 students in a full campus there. So is it possible for Edson? It's absolutely possible for Edson. You have an economic driver here. Yes, we have a large city a couple hours away, but that can be a bonus for you. People can drive with less traffic. They're safer here. There are many reasons why a parent would choose this location for their child over a larger city that they're not familiar with. So when we see people that are driving down here from Fort McMurray to attend GPRC Edson, we know that you have what it takes to attract entire cohorts. And like I said, 1,500 students is not unreasonable for a town this size.
Right, thank you. Councillor Bella?
Through the chair, on your early learning and childcare, and that you said you could take your levels here, you have 1, 2, 3, so when you take the levels, do they have to do level 1, then go and out and be into a setting and that, come back, take it level 2? They have to put time in there, can they take them all in one shot?
Thank you, Councillor. So the equivalency to a level 1, as the government knows it, is one of our 3 credit courses. So they would just have to take one course, and then if they wanted to continue, then they can do that. The equivalency of a level 2 is our 1-year program. So that one course is part of that 1-year program, and then the equivalency to the level 3 is the 2-year program. So when the students come in and they talk to me about early, they say, I want to do early learning in childcare, a lot of them already have that 1 year, that 3 credit course. So they have that level 1, they're looking for their level 2. But absolutely they can be working. A lot of our students in early learning and childcare right now are working while they're taking that program, the level 2 program, the 1-year program. They can be working. Do they have to be? No, they do not have to be in between the 2 of them.
One more?
Yeah.
One more. On your business coaching and that, you guys say you're doing that. If you're ever full and that, do you ever reach out to any other organizations like Community Futures West Yellowhead that does a lot of business coaching and shares their stuff with everybody else and that? And you know, they do have openings and they have a person comes down here to our chamber 1 day a week or 2 day a week, whatever it needs to be here and that. Do they ever reach out to anybody else besides that, or they reach out to you?
Yes, so we have strong partnerships with Community Futures, and we do work together collaboratively. We could strengthen those relationships as well. Tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow that they're opening their doors in Hinton, and we're attending that. And we have attended their training on entrepreneurship. We also offer a similar program, so there is some overlapping, but in order to provide seamless delivery, we want to catch everyone. So yes, we do work closely with Community Futures in all from Grand Cache, Hinton, Edson, and Jasper.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkinson?
Okay, thank you very much through the chair. I was on a tour at the hospital there with the Tamarack Health Advisory, and Miss Murgart there was saying how short they were in just being able to get workers in Edson, and they had a little area that was designed for something else, but they were trying to have it as a little training area with beds and mannequins, etc. And I just wondered if there was any way that you could work maybe with the hospital. And the same, I'm on Evergreens Foundation, and just to find people, an introductory course, I guess, to find out if that's your bag, if you want to work, you know, with seniors or not. I think it's really important that there's some way that you can sort of find this out before you end up going for a full career in it, and then it doesn't suit you. But they need workers too, and they'll need more with the new building opening, so just thoughts on that.
Yes.
Third one you wanted people to do, okay.
Thank you, Council Wilkinson, and through the chair. I appreciate that, and those are the connections that we want to build, because absolutely the programs that are already existing in Grand Prairie that we are currently unable to deliver in Edson because we do not have the facilities or we do not have the ability, that's a huge wall that you just broke down. So that's exactly what we want, exactly what we're here for today, is to break down those walls and to say, yes, we can bring this program if we had a space. And you say, oh, I have a space.
Yes.
So that's perfect.
So I'm sure both institutes
Yes.
really appreciate the
Yes.
partnership.
And that's exactly what we're seeing with things like healthcare aid, and that is often folks in town coming to us and saying, could you put this person, we just need that introduction because we already have it and we can compress it, we can make it weekends only if they are working professionals already and they want to make a change, because those are folks that constantly will need recruiting new talent and having people trained, and that we see at both ends. And then when we attract people, the first thing some towns say is, how can we grow? We have no housing as it is. Yes, we have seen everything that is so innovative, including in Eastern Canada. What they do is the hotel owners, when they are experienced a downsize, they have the hotel second as a student residence. The classes are from September to April in your off season for tourism, and the youth go home for major holidays. So they're open for holidays. Your hotels are still open. This can be from Jasper all the way through here. So when the town players work with colleges, there are some innovative, especially for 3-star hotels, that tends to be similar to a student dorm and what they're expecting now. Then you can bring a cohort of 15 to 20 for each section, and then it rolls out across from everything from power engineering. Then you're going through all the trades, and you have students coming in for all the healthcare as well.
Your friends in Kelowna have done that with their
Correct.
hotel, and it just works out really well.
Yeah, because then it's always at full vacancy, and that is what those owners of those hotels want. But you have to flip it on its head and say, is that possible? Absolutely. September to April can be a downtime. Now, there are folks that say we only want industry, and that's okay for them. Doesn't have to be an either or. There's usually several hotels in oil and gas towns especially. So for those service industries, we see both a blend, industry partnerships and post-secondary coming together to fill those gaps and diversify the economy and the strength of it.
Thank you, Councillor Swanson.
Excellent presentation. Thank you very much for coming. Just wanted to mention during our strategic planning session this year, we did bring up regional colleges and the importance of them for serving our local needs, but also hopefully using it to draw in students to our community. So if there's you mentioned it a couple times tonight, but if there is a way we can foster that, I think we're all interested in that.
Wonderful. That's great to hear.
Secondly, a few years ago I was doing consulting in the field, and I had to take all of the courses out in the bush, like the first aid, H2S, all of those. There's probably a dozen courses I had to take before I could start working, and each course had a week in between sessions that I could sign up for. So I was wondering if you guys ever considered just like packaging all of them together for a field certification, so someone could just go to your campus for 2 weeks and just get everything they need to get ready to go into the field.
Yes, absolutely, Councillor. Thank you. We have an industry readiness program, and it's a program already, a lot of it being offered in Grand Prairie. And again, to anything that is offered in Grand Prairie, we can bring here as long as we have the numbers, as long as we have the people. So one of the big connectors to that would be connecting with the different businesses and saying, okay, who's ready for this? Let's do this together. And so absolutely, that is something that we do already in Grand Prairie and that we want to bring to this region. What we know about Edson and Hinton in Jasper and Grand Cache, Edson and Hinton specifically, is that we are talking oil fields and oil and gas industries, mining, logging, all of that. These are tradespeople. These are people who maybe don't want to go to college and get a degree. So we have a whole other area of our college that we can still access. We can access the trades. We can access the continuing education. We are now currently under what is called the current continuing education umbrella. So being under that umbrella, that is something that they want us to present more to our towns and to our communities. It wasn't here previously. Nobody really, continuing ed was over to the side, and now they're saying let's do this together. And industry readiness and trucking, those are huge aspects of that.
And it is a compressed, accelerated format, if that is what's wanted. Our what we're at the stage of right now is introducing ourselves formally to communities in the West Yellowhead, and then to bring back your ideas. So this is like really an informal needs assessment that we're having tonight in our discussion. We will bring this back and say these are two possibilities, and Lacey, her job as a program coordinator is to say we saw appetite from 2 counselors for this. What do we need? Can we contact those counselors and find out the names, have those initial conversations, look at a date. Is it a March start for compressed learning before they get into the fields for April, May, once the the snow breaks up, and then it's delivered. And so those success stories happen every day, and we would love to see that for Edson as well.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Curry and then Councillor Bevan.
Just through the chair. Thank you. I am curious about the summer camps, because I do know that we currently have a lot of people that have to leave town to just do anything innovative, just a different form of summer camp. So what type of camps do you guys offer?
Thank you, Councillor Curry. It's very exciting for me with the summer camps, because they have been offered in Hinton for a few years consistently. And a couple years ago, we tried to offer them in Edson, but we didn't get the traction. With me being located here now, I'm hoping that we can gain that traction. So some of the different ones that are popular are a Lego camp, a Minecraft camp. This year we tried to run in Hinton coding for girls, because the first computer programmer was a woman. So we tried to run that. Unfortunately, we didn't get the traction on that. There's different scientific camps. We've got a bunch on our website that we offer in Grand Prairie. So our website is www.gprc.ab.ca, and then you can just search up summer camps, and there's a bunch there. And if there is interest, we can bring them.
Can I do a follow-up?
Yes, go ahead.
What are your numbers for that?
For the summer camp in Hinton,
Like how many numbers would you need to run it?
the minimum.
So what we do is in Hinton, because the community really wants those opportunities for its children, Rotary has subsidized 4 of the spots, which means that we only need 4 children to run a camp for 8. So that's how we do it. And you can either sponsor a camper or you can subsidize that program. In total, for 2 camps to run, which was highly successful for us, I believe it cost Rotary $1,400. And the result was they got a camp that's usually run only in Edmonton, Calgary, Grand Prairie, in Hinton. And the kids learned what they do. It's very high curriculum and involvement, but they make it fun. It's all applied learning. They build Lego, and they do the robotics coding starting at like age 8 to 10. It's amazing. Children are incredible in that way. And they code these everything that's shaped from a car to a crane to a dog to a train. And these robots just take over the room. It's unbelievable what they learn in the course of like one afternoon, let alone 1 week. They create them and then they code them so they have all these actions. And then we have the technology that's brought in kits from Grand Prairie, and they're hot-shotted down here so that we run our camp on alternate weekends or weeks with Grand Prairie.
And then just further to Susan, the most exciting part about our summer camps in Hinton this year is we had a returning student, was our teacher.
Yeah.
So we had somebody that went through GPRC, graduated, and then came back and taught our summer camps.
And she has a Bachelor of Education now.
So we're very excited about that too. So we're making the full circle and the full connection through these children.
And the kids from the first camp were so excited to take the next camp that when we were low, we only had 2 enrolled. The mother said, please don't cancel it, please don't cancel it. I'm gonna make some calls. And she called around, was our best recruiter. We had 6 that went because we extended our deadline from cutoff from Tuesday to a Thursday, which we can do in smaller communities. We don't have to have the cutoff of Grand Prairie with any of our registrations. As Lacey knows, we'll take them in the first 2 weeks of September if something else didn't pan out in their lives. We get them in there for post-secondary and our summer camps. So we held on and we ran it with 6. So we ran 2 summer camps that were fully enrolled with the help of Rotary.
Nice.
Yes.
Robots wandering around. I'm out. Councillor Bevan, go ahead.
On your advanced upgrading ad, how are your numbers compared to other places you go?
For the academic upgrading, so we have 1 student in Edson this year, which is the first student that we've had in 3 years in any of our campuses. So with this 1 student coming back, we know that we're going to be running academic upgrading courses for English 20 and English 30. So we're really trying to promote those to let people know. English is, as you will know, for post-secondary, English is a huge ask. That's the main thing they look at. So we are running, and we know that we're running English 20 in the winter semester, and then English 30 either in the spring or next fall before this 1 student. So we're really trying to promote them. Right now we have 1 student, but I have phone calls, many phone calls coming in right now, which is awesome.
It's just catching on because we've introduced a lot more academic upgrading choices.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Byron and Councillor Schnarr.
Through the chair to Susan and Lacey, thank you for the presentation. As Councillor Sorensen mentioned, we've discussed having a college in Edson, and you had mentioned Edson growth is key to GPRC, but I think your growth is also key for us as well. So if there was an opportunity to help you guys out, I would appreciate any other information that you have on what the town can do in a sense.
Thank you, Councilor Byron. I think that the main thing is to know that we exist.
Mm-hmm.
As we said, Debbie has been with GPRC in Edson for 14 years. This is my 8th year with GPRC in Edson. For the last 7 years, people have asked me if I drive to Grand Prairie to teach. No, I don't. I am located here. We are located here. Our students are located here. We are teaching and our students are learning in Edson for the last 7 to 10 to 14 years. So I think that's the main thing, is to grow the brand and to know that, so that people know that they have that option here at home and that they don't have to leave to go to school.
And to get a first-rate education. Our statistics show that we offer some of the best education in the province of Alberta, and that's saying a lot. We are the 4th, GPRC is the 4th biggest provider of apprenticeship training in all of Alberta. We're only behind Nate, Sate, and Red Deer College. So we're up there, and that can be for Edson, and it already is in some aspects. So we want to continue with that growth, and we obviously see the appetite here for to grow Edson in that way, and that's super exciting for us, and we'll do what we can to continue to invest in this community.
All right, Councillor Schnarr, anything new?
Yes, you keep talking about the camps. What is the cost for summer camps and how long does it run for? Because, it's a day camp, obviously.
Yes.
So what is the cost and how long does it run for?
Tricky questions today, Councillor Schwannard. The camps are Monday to Friday, so they're 5 days, and they were 9 to 3, I believe. So 5 days, 9 to 3, Monday to Friday, and the cost is on our website.
It varies from $265. It depends on how many supplies. Like for the science camp, you had so many projects, and they were one-time only use, from building the volcano to whatever they were creating. So that cost was a bit higher. But for our coding camps, it is very reasonable and comes in, I think, just shy of $300.
Councillor Bevan?
Just like say, I remember when we had our BSN network here and that too. I remember you guys coming there and talking about some of these things that are going on, and now you are actually doing them and that. And I know when he used to have the MLA come out and he'd talk about this and that, and seeing you now, you're there right now doing this and you're doing a lot more. It's really nice to see and hear that for sure. And I'm glad you guys was, progressed to that point. I'd love to see a campus here, especially for our instrumentation, electrical people that have to go to the city and that, because I've got some grandkids that are in there for instrumentation right now and stuff like that, and on electrical. They'd love to be able to do it out here and work at the same time instead of taking time off and not being paid for the job. And that's what they gotta come back, so it'd be nice to see that here.
Thank you for mentioning that, Councillor. One of the things on my radar as program coordinator is to bring the trades to this region. So we were in Grand Prairie at the end of August, and the trades guy happened to sit at the same table as us, and he asked me, how do I get your students to pick me over Nate? And I said, you start them in Edson. You start them in Hinton, you start them in Jasper and Grand Cache. You start them in their small town, because people are creatures of habits. And if you start them here, they will choose you over your opponent. That being said, the other thing that we need to look at, because we are an exam invigilation station, one of the things that we know is what people are writing exams for. So for power engineering is huge, huge in this area. We have power engineers writing exams every day in Edson and in Hinton. So why can't we offer power engineering in Edson and in Hinton? So that's kind of the first one on my radar, to find a way to bring that here. And I said to the tradesperson when we were sitting there, and I said, so how do I get trades in Edson? How do I get power engineering? And he put up a couple roadblocks, and I said, now let's think outside the box. And so we're looking at things like the Bachelor of Social Work Learning Circle, or like the U of C Bachelor of Education Rural Education Program, where they can study and do all of their classroom work here, and maybe they just go for an intensive 2 weeks to Fairview to do the stuff that they can't get done here. Right? So we're in those discussions, we're having those talks, and power engineering is one of the first ones that I would like to see in these towns.
Yeah, and night classes and weekends we know for working professionals works, and they can do that and still support their families, which is key for many of the professionals that we're seeing that want retraining or stronger educational backgrounds.
All right, well, thank you, Susan and Lacey, for your presentation here today. As you can tell, we have 7 members of council here that are very passionate about this. As was mentioned, we did have a discussion at strategic planning. I think there's a lot of ways that we can collaborate, whether it's through, one of the things we're doing is more promotional videos about our community, so maybe we can work with you on one of those. I know that I recently talked to a firm out of Calgary that's bringing some foreign workers from out of country that don't speak English, and I directed them your way. So I think having that awareness and you talking to us here today will help us sell the message. We'll be your biggest advocates, and I'm sure we'll have some opportunities to talk with the Minister of Advanced Education. We'll be sure to mention how important GPRC is to our community.
Thank you, Your Worship. We appreciate the collaborations and the discussions that we've had tonight. It's given us a lot of wind in our sails, because we certainly want to grow in Edson, and we feel that we have all the components and people at the table to do so.
And I just want to make note too, we do have housing available in our community. We have a brand
you
new
do?
subdivision, and
fantastic.
we have a vacancy rate of about
Great.
9% right now in our rental market.
Okay, yes, so sometimes it's a little bit harder for communities because they're going to have 3 or 4 students in a 4-bedroom home.
Yeah.
But if you have an appetite for that, and if we work with landlords, it definitely can be a win-win if folks are respectful and the students understand what a privilege it is to be studying here. They get that really quickly, and they don't want to ruin that. There's not a lot of street parties for alumni homecomings yet, but I think it'll be good for Edson.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're free to stay if you like, but we certainly understand if you don't want to partake in the rest of our meeting. So.
Thank you.
All right. Can I get a motion, please, that council approve the amended snow and ice policy number O-T-3 and cancel policies OT5, OT16, and OT3 procedure? Councillor Bevan will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Sorensen.
As we discussed in the committee of the whole meeting, I had some reservations about this policy, and I see they haven't been changed, so I will not be voting in favor of this motion. Once again, section 5 is talks about the public pushing snow onto public land and threatening them with public safety hazards and enforcement of bylaw. And then the very next bullet talks about our staff putting snow in front of people's driveways, and there's no repercussions of that at all. So I can't vote in favor of this. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, Councillor Sorensen. Councillor Chenard.
Just a comment, not on the policy, but what I did mention before. Are we going to do consideration for extra budgeting when we have more or less snow? I'm just throwing a comment out because we're talking this, so that's part of it.
Through the chair to Councillor Chenard, the purpose of what we're trying to do is to create a baseline so that we know when we do have these peaks and valleys and what our budget is going to look like in this scenario. So yeah, we would, in a sense, we would be able to create an average and then make allowable space for budgetary overages on a year like we had last year.
All right, thank you.
If I may, I can
Go ahead.
add to that as well. As certainly our process already incorporates that with a significant reserve set aside for snow removal, and that's really a contingency basis, as in significant snow events or snow years that are heavier than usual. And I don't see any reason why that wouldn't continue, as well as the adjustments considered here in the policy to ensure we can be as responsive and adaptive as we need to be to deal with weather, which is completely unpredictable, and we certainly do our best to understand patterns and averages, but we also know that we have to be ready to deal with unusual and unexpected weather events.
All right, Councillor Wilkinson.
Well, it might sort of have been addressed, but you're saying you want a baseline now. Do you not have a baseline from before? If you amalgamated all these policies together, there must be something that gave you a baseline before for budgeting.
Correct. I think this is a simplification of administration, so we can stick to one policy, one standard operating procedure, and there isn't room for gray area for interpretation from one year to the next. We do have an average based on budget. However, it may not apply to mapping as clear as it would on what our perceived plan is. To make it more consistent, to gain consistency in the process.
And you don't feel it was consistent before?
Just because there was 3 separate policies and there wasn't a standard operating procedure, so from one year to the next, it appears as though we'd be doing a lot of snow removal in certain areas and not in others, and then vice versa, one year to the next, even though the budgetary planning was the same.
Okay, no, I just never heard citizens complaints about that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Meyer.
Through the chair to administration, Councillor Sorensen's comments kind of concern me a little bit, that if someone has, maybe they're elderly and have a whole pile of snow packed in front of their driveway, if they do call in, are they able to get assistance with that? Or is it, do you have to demobilize everything and bring it back? Or is there, how would that look if someone couldn't get out of their driveway and they didn't have the ability to remove the snow themselves?
Go ahead, Administration.
Maybe perhaps I'll take that one, Mr. M. I think this is the same with any system. The time where you start trying to address individual needs, it becomes very challenging, or at minimum costly. And certainly that's at council's discretion in terms of setting a policy whereby we would assist with clearing of private driveways. It would just need to come with the requisite funding, which would just be quite expensive. And certainly our crews actively work to do their best to keep all private driveways as clear as possible, but when they're clearing many kilometers of roadways, that's the priority rather than individual driveways. And we're not anticipating or expecting any unusual changes. This is really more about having the policies reflect our most current practices rather than changing our practices to suit the new policy. So we're not suggesting or recommending significant service level changes. What we want is a consistency of policy to practices. And another note I would just say is, as we look at some of the policy pieces that are listed and this new policy would supersede, some of them are more than 20 years old, some of them go back a long ways, some of them are one sentence long that don't really give us much guidance. And so we really just want to improve the ability of any individual who's responsible for snow maintenance would have a better, more clear and consistent guideline when operating that program.
All right, thank you, Councillor Bevan and Councillor Shenard. Thank
you, Chair. I know in previous years, there has been a few times when, a resident has been plowed in or whatever, stuff like this and that, they have to help. But I've noticed that the residents are pushing the snow out onto the street more and more frequently. It's happened, and now it causes a whole neighborhood to have a problem trying to get in and out of their neighborhoods. And it's not only affecting one, it's affecting 10, 20, 30 people, or anybody trying to go down that street. So to me, it's the residents that are pushing the snow into the street that is more of a problem than, I believe, of, you know, a whole pile of residents getting plowed in. And I know in the past there has been a few plowed in and that, and you know, they've been taken care of from time to time and time and that. So it's, to me, it's more the problem of the residents pushing snow into the street.
All right, thank you. Councillor Chenard.
Actually kind of referring to number 5, and we had talked about, someone brought it up. How are we addressing an example like Main Street, where some of the properties would have no back alleys and they would have to plow the snow? So we're saying do not put it on the street, but on Main Street when they're cleaning sidewalks, then, you know, they are plowing it onto Main Street because they don't have a choice, but we don't want to discourage them from cleaning the street. So could we maybe put that in, address in there? Like, I fully understand, don't clean a parking lot, but what about Main Street sidewalks?
Through the chair to Councillor Chouinard, that was taken into account, and the downtown core was added as part of the priority 1, priority 2 snow removal. So any of the snow that would be cleared by businesses or by the town would be also part of the priority 1, priority 2 clearing in the downtown sector.
But where my question is, will they be allowed to, like, we're addressing do not plow your snow onto there, but on Main Street where they don't have a choice, some
Right.
places, and we don't want to discourage them, we don't want snow piled up. So I'm thinking we need to address that, saying that in no other option, because we want you to clear it, but what are you going to do with the snow? They don't have a parking lot. So are we going to put that, you know, now that we're looking at it, we should address that for, and we can call them priority 1, 2, but we need to address that.
I would definitely look at that into adding to our standard operating procedure so that we have a game plan for that particular situation.
So, and I understand what you're saying, Councillor Chenard. So do we need to make an amendment, motion for amendment on that, or is that something that administration will do internally?
Yeah, thank you. So a couple of options, Your Worship. One would be to accept a motion passing this policy and also directing administration to consider this and bringing forward that at a future date. My recommendation would be, if council would prefer to see something as substantive of that administration would just be directed to take it back and bring it back for consideration. I don't think forgive me, I've been away here, so I missed the first part of this conversation. But I don't think that this is something that is incredibly time sensitive. So I certainly don't think administratively that it would be a problem for us to consider that. And just to speak to Councillor Chenard's point, certainly I think that there are circumstances where we cannot capture all of them in a policy statement, and we try to adopt principles here. I think the Main Street circumstance is one that we should probably consider addressing specifically here, so that there's not any confusion about what the intention is there. I don't want to speak for the staff. I haven't spoken with them yet, but I do not believe there is any intention in adjusting the current practice that takes place there on Main Street.
All right, thank you. Councillor Curry.
I'm okay, like with the few changes there. I would like to see that change about Main Street. I do question if we could change the wording a little bit in 5 to just be a little more considerate of the fact that we're asking something of our residents and in 1 and then right after it not standing by it ourselves. I get the reasoning for that. My biggest concern is, because see how Derek caught there was when we saw the maps, there is some changes to service because they're adding the commercial route as one of the top priorities now as priority 3. And there was changes to the routes of sanding. So my big thing with this policy is that I do want strong tracking and strong, because there was changes mentioned last meeting to operating standards that could affect the community. And so that is my only concern, is that if we're doing that, strong tracking and then communication back to us on how it's going, because adding that commercial route will decrease snow removal in the residential for sure, if that's a bigger priority. So that's my only concern.
Administration.
Thank you. Yeah, good. And again, with respect to the conversation that took place when I was absent, I would obviously defer to that. The commercial properties weren't referenced as a priority route, but they were treated as a priority route in terms of how we address snow removal, and typically would deal with the commercial district before we did residential snow removal. And so we're not anticipating that it would have a significant impact in the total service delivery through the community. We're just encapsulating it in what we feel is a more cohesive and clear policy piece, rather than having 2 or 3 different policy pieces trying to address those types of things.
All right, thank you. Councillor Wilkinson?
Through the chair, we did have a long discussion at the last meeting. And then he said, not a change in current practice. We really did want a change in current practice in downtown. We wanted that cleaned out. Like last year, we found sometimes that the snow was left there too long, we felt. And I have been thinking about it all week. In sanding, the way I understood it, they said that, well, of course, sand is expensive, but they would sand when people phoned and complained about a corner or something. And to me, I don't think that's being responsible. We know, I think any of us here could name at least 5 spots that just need it right off the bat as soon as it's a storm. You know, by the United Church, like there's the different spots that everybody's sliding through. Do you not think we should make some priorities that they do go out and sand those? And then if there are complaints afterwards, go to those. But there's any of those sliding down to the highway, we need to sand them.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Yeah, and I think Councillor Wilkinson, that's the exact intent of trying to create this policy, is that it's some clear guidance on
Right.
problem areas and those types of things. Certainly, I wasn't here for the conversation, but I would not want to give anyone the impression that they can just call up and order sand to come out in front of their house
No,
or
they
to their
just-
corner
people
or
would
anything like
complain
that,
if it was a problem,
because
but I
that
think we
is
need to
that's
address
certainly
the
not the type of program that we have or are intending to operate.
No, we don't want that.
But we do definitely know where certain problem areas
Yeah.
exist, and the intent is to address those as quickly and as regularly as is reasonable.
Just before we go any further, I would recommend that we turn the vote against this motion and direct administration to bring it back to a future committee meeting for further discussion and refinement before it comes to council. But go ahead, Councillor
That's
Schneid.
exactly what I was thinking, like how do we don't kill it, but send it back? So I don't know who made the motion, send it back to administration for the changes that we've all talked about.
So just a few additional comments. I agree with what Councillor Wilkinson said. We do have some areas that, like I know 9th and 61st, for example, you're coming around a corner, it's down the hill, never gets sanded, but it's a problem area. So we need to note those down. Maybe it's an appendix that these are areas that will be addressed on a regular basis, or somehow administration needs to deal with that. Also, on number 9, it says here the threshold for initiating snow removal on all remaining areas will be a depth of 10 centimeters. Just before that, it says snow accumulation beyond 5 centimeters in depth will be considered a snow event, and the threshold that will initiate the snow control operations on priority 1 routes only. So if I read that, that means 2, 3, and 4 are not being dealt with until the 10 centimeter threshold. Is that the intention here? That only priority 1 will be done at 5 centimeters?
Yeah, that's I think how that reads to me. Yes.
Okay. Well, I have a concern with that because I think priority 1 and 2s and 3 and 4. I was under the impression at committee there that they happen simultaneously together. So I'm a little confused by that. As well as I mentioned, I think 10th Avenue should be a priority route as well. I'm a little surprised that we only have 6th as east-west corridor in this community. There's a lot of traffic from the west end of town that uses 10th to access Main Street, Repsol Place, and I think that needs to be given a higher priority than some of the other areas of town. I know there were a couple snow events last year in which cul-de-sacs are getting cleared, yet this heavy traffic street is not being addressed. So I won't be voting in favor of this until we get a little bit more clarification on that. So I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried, and administration, you'll bring that back to a future committee meeting?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Can I get a motion, please? The council approve the notice of decision, copy attached, for a demolition of a single-family dwelling located at Plan 1494AC, Block 22, Lot 8, in the Direct Control District. Councillor Chouinard will make that motion. And we have Ms. Resick that is joining us at the table here today. If you want to talk about this.
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for having me. I'm just going to bring up my presentation here. All right, so this is a request to accept the notice of decision that administration has brought forward for the demolition of a single-family dwelling that is from 1937. It is in poor condition. There's also a wooden fence to the west of it that will also be a part of the demolition. As you can see here in the image, this is the house and the fence on the west side. So this is in a direct control district, which means that council can only move this permit through. Normally applications only go through myself. Let's see. So administration is asking to approve the notice of decision that is attached. And if you have any questions, I can provide clarification.
All right, council, any questions? No questions? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council approve a time extension for a plan endorsement for the subdivision 2017 TOE 005, affecting the vacant parcels Plan 0728621, Block 3, Lot 9, and part of Plan 3719ET, Block 3, Lot 4, North PT to October 31st, 2020. Councillor Bevan will make that motion. Ms. Resick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we do recommend that this subdivision is to be extended. It was originally approved in October 2nd of 2017, and there was a first extension granted for the end of this to expire at the end of this month. We are asking that council approve the extension because there are no significant changes to the policy or regulations or physical characteristics of the land that would require additional referral of subdivision approval or any affected agencies or stakeholders. This is the subject land. It's a part of the Anderson Area Structure Plan. So there are 3 components to it. This again I will remind you that this was a notice of decision that was previously approved, and it is just the landowner is requesting it be extended for an additional year until October 2020.
All right, any questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Bevan.
Yeah. How many times can they ask for extensions? Is there a time limit? I mean, 2, 3, 4, 5 before anything ever happens?
Yeah. So through to Mr. Mayor, to Councillor. Yes, so typically there isn't really a limit on it, but we would like to not extend it more than 3 times. That's just because as time goes on, things can change, stakeholders can change, or just the external referrals that we conduct, there may be changes with that regard. So we typically don't like to do more than 3 extensions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council direct administration to send the attached letter of intent to the regional mayors and councils to request formal support for the role and funding of an economic development advocate to solicit business to the region? Councillor Wilkinson will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Sorensen and then Councillor Chouinard.
Thank you. Through the chair to administration, I think the letter has been improved quite a bit since the last time we saw it. And to council in general, I would just comment that I will be supporting this motion, but I'm not in favor of just hiring someone for 3 years to work on general economic development in the region if they don't have specific projects and specific goals for those 3 years. So I will be supporting this, but I will hope that we give them very specific goals to accomplish and deadlines and timelines to complete.
All right, thank you. CEO Derricott, do you want to speak to that at all? Or?
No, thank you. I would just add that I think I agree with Councillor Sorensen that the objectives, this is early stages of this process, but a very important part of that is to ensure terms of reference are very clear, objectives are very clear, and any mandate that's given to the agency or the person who would undertake that work would have to be very well defined, I think, if we were to achieve what we hope to. I think can be done, it's just need to make sure that it is.
All right, sounds good. Councillor Shenard.
I'm agreeing with both individuals. My thing is against, we have to see how many's interested, and then what's important to me is what is the cost of the individual. I'm in favor, I will vote in favor, but I'm concerned about what it's gonna cost us value-wise.
All right. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Oh, Councillor Bevan?
Yeah, no problem there. We hire somebody in that, are they gonna be based out of down of Edson here, or where are they gonna be located at?
Well, we're the one, I would suggest we're the ones driving it, so they would be, but they would be working for the region. So we'll see how that conversation goes. And if we find somebody in another community that meets the skill set, then, you know, they might be based out of there, right? So I'll speak to this. This is something that, you know, we've talked about as a council, and economic development and driving that in our region, I think, is really important. And our regional mayors group has had several discussions around this, and there's definitely an interest in forming an economic region for our area. So I hope that they will support us looking at hiring somebody and starting to form this in a more formal manner, and working with our regional partners. I think there's plenty of opportunity to talk about things like post-secondary and driving people to the right community for the right sector. And I think that that's been lacking here in the last few years. I'm not interested in studies and doing some of the things that we've done in the past. I want to get down to work and actually kind of promote our region, whether that be at trade shows or events and job fairs and that sort of thing. So I'm in full support. I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council accept the September 2019 quarterly report as information? Councillor Curry will make that motion, and we have Ms. Bittner, who has taken away some time from getting the budget ready for 2020 to present this to us here today. If you want to maybe highlight some of the things that are noted in the quarterly report.
Sit down, so bring this up on the screen here. So this is the quarterly report for September, so 75% of the way through the year. This is the report that you have in front of you in your memo. We generally address anything that's about 10% outside of that range, over 10% outside of that range, just to give you an idea of why they're not sort of on track for the 75%, shall we say. So I have that in the memo in front of you. I don't know if you want me to go over all of those, or if there's any questions you had regarding this part of the quarterly report.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Sorry, I have a question, but I'm not sure if it's to you, Ms. Bittner, I think possibly to administration. I see on here like our public works and engineering, and they're at 78, 79, 83% used alcohol, right? And I'm very concerned, like we went out to GBY PSD for lunch, and that road at First Avenue is really in a mess. I now, through a detour, have to drive on 7th, and you're like airborne over the bumps. And I guess I'm questioning, are they going to be fixed with this budget left? It doesn't seem to be enough of a budget left there.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Through the chair, certainly I think you've identified a few areas that are considered in the capital projects coming up and cannot or are not intended to be repaired through the operational budget. The fixes required there are more substantial than in the operational budget. I know that our crew has spent some time on First Avenue there by Grand Yellowhead and some of our other industry and government partners there. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the road's in a condition where any work that they do is quite temporary, and the weather also this year was difficult. So certainly we expect that The crews do their best to maintain what exists at the best possible level, but sometimes the structural integrity of those facilities just needs to be addressed, and I would say that the areas that you identified are in that category.
So in an upcoming capital budget part.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
We'll have a discussion on Saturday. Councillor Sean, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. I was just gonna make a comment just to the people, or I noticed on one, global traffic expenses down revenue. So obviously, after all the tickets, I'm gonna have this, so people are getting it, slow down, is the way I'm reading it. It finds you down, we need people to slow down.
I might think that
And I believe we also adjusted how much time they're spending in certain zones.
Thank you. So, while that may be one of the possible variables, I would just suggest it's not that simple. The areas that we have them spend time can have a direct reflection on the number of speeding violations. For example, anytime they spend off the highway will just generate per hour less violations, and so that was direction that was given to administration, was to ensure that they were spending more time in some of our other sensitive areas, and so that is at least one contributing factor. Driving habits may affect that. The economy and the general volume of traffic may also affect that. So there's 2 or 3 variables there that have affected that. I think the important note there, as it was mentioned in the memo, is as the revenues and expenses are kind of directly tied. As global issues, less violations on our behalf, we also pay them less money as well. So.
Councillor Sorensen.
Through the chair to administration, local improvement revenue is at 86%. The tax notices went out in May, so does that mean 14% have not paid their taxes?
through the chair to Councillor Sorensen, it could be a number of different factors. It could have been some people that actually paid their local improvements off early before the taxes went out. That gets treated in a different way. I think that was the main issue with this particular local improvement one. I think there was also one of the budgets was slightly out from what I expected to get into what we actually got in. So there was a little bit of a difference there as well.
Great. Any other questions on the operational portion? Just recreation complex. I noticed that we didn't spend anywhere near what we thought we were going to do. Is that because the demolition came in under what we thought, or is there another reason for that? It's a good number to have, but
there's a number of reasons, I think, for that. Okay. I think at the beginning of the year with the budget, we had the demolition budgeted there as well. But we also had a number of, part of the year budgeted as well, just in case the demolition took longer, etc. So with that, we had budgeted that amount to be spent there, but it was demolished when we were expecting it to be. So those expenses therefore were down from that. We no longer had a lot of those expenses that we had put in there.
okay, thank you. We'll move on.
Okay. Sorry, just getting used to getting things up here. So the next part that I have to show you is I was thinking about looking at 19 to 18 comparisons. So thank you. So I thought I would just do a quick graph to show where we were in 18 at the end of September versus where we are in 19 at the end of September. And I thought it was actually quite interesting that, especially if you look at the bottom one, the revenue one, almost exactly the same as we were at this point last year, apart from that fines revenue, which we've spoken about, shows it a little bit less for 19. Mm-hmm. The expenses are following the same trends as well. I feel that the peaks and valleys are very similar. Some of those differences could be between 18 and 19. For 19, we don't necessarily have all of September's invoices in yet. Whereas for 18, when I pulled those figures, we would have had those figures in there. But I just thought it was an interesting graph to show you that we actually are following very much the same trend as we did the year before with our expenses and our revenues.
One.
Any other questions? No? Okay. With the September report, we are going to go through the capital in a bit more of a thorough manner than we have in the other quarterly reports. Generally, we were looking at anything over 500,000. This report will look at all the capital projects and see where they are for this particular year. This part of the year, I should say. Right, so we're looking at the computer server replacement. Will be completed this year. And the year-to-date figures to September are here. I don't know if you want me to go through each one of them. I know you saw it in your in the
I
package.
think
If
just,
there's any
I think
that you
just if
have
council has
Yeah.
specific
any
questions.
specific questions, I can go through.
Right, any questions on the capital side? I do have a question on the Bench Creek stabilization. I know we love talking about that. I see the year-to-date is 766, 329. Is all the work complete for that? And did we
I'll
come
pass
in
that
under
over to
the
Mr. Yockel.
anticipated budget, or I know there were some materials that we were trying to reclaim expenses on, so if you can tell us why the reason for that number.
I'm pleased to report that council should not expect to see any more expenditures on the Bench Creek stabilization project, so. Yeah.
Right.
So if no
Yeah,
other
we
questions
can
on
move on.
capital.
Councilor Bevan, you have a question?
I just think the work we done down there with KSM, where it was washed out, that is also included in here, and there'd be no more work going forward. See, because I brought it before when engineering firm was here, and that they should have extended it another 10 feet because that corner's gonna wash out, which it did wash out. KSM went down there and spent how many thousands of dollars more to shore up that road and that bank. That's also captured in here, and that too.
If you want me to chime in here.
Sounds good.
Capital Projects Manager, this is why we got him.
Through the chair to Councilor Bevan. We actually had the materials in place from the original Bench Creek project, and the hours that were in on that project should be included in this figure. And if not, it will be very close to this figure.
Go ahead.
Yes, the other question is, Bench Creek up behind our theater, it's falling in more and more and more now. Are we gonna wait till that theater slides into the creek and we're gonna repair it, or are we gonna look at doing it?
We have engineering on that. I don't believe that will be included in this particular capital project.
Probably not, yeah.
We have engineering on it currently, and it was sent out for bid in June, and so we're just waiting on a completed engineering on the work so that we can move forward.
I think if I remember correctly, and Mr. Ham, please correct me if I'm wrong, but you'll see underneath the Bench Creek stabilization, there's a stormwater management project, and inside of that water management program was that particular issue being addressed as well. So it's captured inside that second line item.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Chenard.
The other one that's the snow dump, we've had that out for tender. Has that closed yet? Do we have any indication if that 700,000 is going to be in the right on money for that or not? Because I'm not sure when we closed the date, but I'm just curious on that number, 700,000, if that's going to be correct or not.
Go ahead, administration.
Thank you. Yeah, so as council may recall, that was brought forward to council. We received only one bid, which we decided to decline based on the timing and the cost. And we are currently pursuing alternative sites for this year's snow year, which would then allow us to prep the site for completing that process next year.
Sounds good. And the weather, I'm sure, wouldn't have helped us this year on getting that done either. Councilor Byer.
Through the chair to administration, on any of these capital projects that are still ongoing, are we expecting any overages or money or an ask of council for additional funds on any of them in particular?
Yeah, thank you. I'm not specifically aware, although Sarah or Mitch, if you are aware, you please feel free to share. At this point, I do not believe we're anticipating any significant overages from the budget that is in front of council.
That is my understanding as well. With these, some of these you may see carry forward, but not necessarily an increase in the amount.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Moving on to the bids.
Right. So this quarterly report, we have a few more to give you. I think we've only had a couple in the ones previously. So this is just the information for you on any bids that were awarded in the last quarter, just for your information.
All right. Any questions, comments, or concerns? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you, Ms. Bittner. We have no sundry items. Council committee reports. We're going back to October 1st, and I am going to start this time as something a little different. I just had one thing on October 7th. We had our youth council meeting with our second youth council. Very robust discussion on environmental issues, homelessness. The youth council will be coming to visit us here at our last committee meeting in November. So Kayla, if you can note that down. And they're certainly all looking forward to serving on the youth council. We have, I think, 7 returning youth counselors, and the remaining are new. So we have a really good mix that way. And I'll let my colleagues who are on the youth council add anything else to that. And we will start with Councillor Byer.
Okay, on October 7th, I had the first youth council meeting, which the mayor's already reported on, other than that they will be presenting a budget to us at the meeting that they, at the end of November. So the budget for the youth council, so that'll be interesting. And also on the 7th, I had a luncheon at the library with some other community members to work towards our plan of service. We've been trying to engage in the public in many different ways, and this was one additional way that we were seeking information. And I just wanted to say thanks to the councillors and administrative staff that were able to support that and provide feedback. And on October 10th, I had a subdivision and development appeal board. We had 2 hearings, and the appellants will be notified of the decisions 15 days after the 10th.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Byer. Councillor Bevan.
Okay, October, where are we, 10th here, I had a senior transportation meeting here and that, and they're doing quite well. They are going to be sending back, or they have sent back the application form for their grant for $13,500 that we send them back here. And they are willing to come to council and give a presentation to us so we can ask them questions and that. They've said they would like to do it, so the door's open to them now. Also, on the accident they have, the insurance company now has stepped up and paid for the ambulance bill and stuff like that, so now they don't have to put that out of their pocket and that. The insurance company's going to pay for that. They said the incumbent weather protocol is -30. They will not go out and pick up anybody and stuff like that, so it has to get -30 before we do that. They have installed 2 new dash cams and that. Look at the Irish ticketing, it's October 10th, they are ready, so that everybody's ready to go there. What else here? Buena Vista, give them a check for $2,515. Eastern Star, give them a check for $1,500, so which was very nice, they can use it and stuff like that. And that is it. October the 3rd, I had a Community Futures meeting. They had acquisition here of $75,000. They had found that they can use, and it can be used for just about anything they want and stuff like that, so which is really good for them and that. Next year they have 6 new farms coming on board for the farm tour and that. They had a very good turnout this year and that. The people loved it and that. They want to go again, and they're going there. Overtime policies have changed and that. They are now back to a 1-to-1 for an hour and that. And I will let Councillor Curry here finish up one.
Go ahead, Councillor Curry.
We're going to go right to me. Okay, where are we again? October 3rd, I also had a Community Futures meeting. I think just some highlights to add is Lemonade Day went phenomenal in Hinton and Jasper, but I've informed them when it comes to Edson next year, it'll be even better. So get prepared. Councillor Byer, you got little ones, get them building. Alberta Farm Days also went really fantastic. The only thing with that one is they are out of funding for phase 2, and so they're currently looking for funding, and the county's been talking about it. And we just discussed how it's one of the only real initiatives that's for the county. The rest are actually our urban centers that they put a lot of their focus on, so how we can support that. It has gotten huge reviews and is the only one of its source in Alberta, and so really pushing to have that that go forward. And the same with the Yellowhead Local Food Initiative. So they really highly recommend looking at the website and being able to see where you can buy it from, and they are working together. So on the Alberta Open Farm Days, everything that was served at their lunch was from the Yellowhead region. and they've been working together to partner to do those. So just some really awesome things that they're doing. They're also adding this year with their youth programming. They're gonna, in Hinton, they're gonna come to the Imagine conference and do a day of teaching the kids about entrepreneurship. And same thing, looking to do it here too. So lots of different programs going on.
And that 75,000, they could use part of it for going ahead with farm days or whatever. So it's
Yeah.
up to us to decide what we would like them to use it for. So we're just not gonna go out and throw it into something. We will talk about it as a region and decide where we would like to put it for the best event.
Yeah, so the huge difference was that it used to always have to go into a project, and
Yeah.
now it's allowed to go into operating,
Yeah.
which allows for then staffing to continue with stuff. So our strategic planning is coming up in December 6th.
Sixth,
So
I think.
it's a Friday.
Yeah.
And so then we'll have new strategic goals for that to share. And so also on that day, I had the Edson Historical District, Edson District Historical Society meeting. Kind of a few things to mention. WAPME was a success, and I'm happy to say that they will only be asking us for 10 of that 27,000 that we approved. So I informed them how happy we were to hear that. And so part of it was that we had to cancel a few of the events just due to weather and capacity. But it was really successful. And the hope is that the play will we get one more show out of them. So if you missed it, our hope is to bring them in and possibly get them in for the schools. So we're really looking forward to that. Escape room is going. So the next escape room is this month. And it is, I can't say much because I don't want to give you any hints. It is in the basement though, and it's like a completely separate. And they already have bookings booked. And because they did it in that space, it is a really good chance that then they could continue this easily, because before they used to have to take up other spaces of the museum, but this is a separate space. So if you go and see, we could have a competition.
Council versus management.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a good idea. I'll let you guys all do a little sneak peek first. No, just kidding. I haven't seen it. And as usual, they were crazy busy this summer. So rentals were down a little bit, but actual events, there was something almost every single day from July, August, and September. So there's that one. And then I had the Edson Dish Chamber on a Wednesday. What day was it? Sorry guys. The 9th. I had that on the 9th. Couple of dates there. Important things, let me see. Kids movie, they're just waiting to find out if Repsol is going to give them money. They're hoping it might get bumped the last Friday in November, only because there's no Fridays available that kids don't have school in December, or it'll be a Sunday. And they will be doing 2 shows this year, because last year they had to turn away kiddies because it was over capacity. And so we chose the safety of the kids versus their sad tears. But we did give them popcorn and hot dogs. But this year they're doing 2, so they don't have to do that. For any small businesses, the Christmas this year, the party is the dueling pianos. So they are anticipating that they will sell out. So if any small businesses are wanting to, or any businesses, or you don't even have to be a business, if you just want to go and have a good time, the tickets are already on sale. Thing to mention though, the Business Gala Awards is on the 19th. They still do have tickets available. So if you know anybody that would like to go, make sure you get those out there. Kind of some big dates coming up. Santa Needs a Ride, so they have till November 1st to find out who wins the bid for Santa. Light Up is November 4th. Night Owl Downtown is December 5th. Santa Parade is December 6th. And then the Christmas party is December 13th. I'm just reading my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything. I think we are good.
Councillor Sorensen.
Okay, on October 2nd to the 4th, I went to the Recycling Council of Alberta annual conference in Jasper, and one thing I should mention, Ann Oriette from the Edson and District Recycling Society was able to find corporate sponsors for 3 youth counselors to attend the event, so kudos to her. They really enjoyed it, and they were first at the mic to ask really serious questions to executives, politicians. They did not shy away at all for asking good questions. It was great to see leaders being built up right here in our community. Couple of points to bring. This is my second conference, so I did hear some repeat information, but some new information for me. Only 9% of plastics are recycled in Canada, and not only is this a landfill issue, but it's a huge loss of petrochemical. It's a resource that we're just putting in the ground. And a few speakers talked about the need for a Western Canadian large plastic recycling facility. And I thought, what better than a location than Edson?
Right.
We have ample water, ample energy, housing, highway and rail access, and we have petrochemical engineers and skilled labor right here that can deal with those plastics. One other really excellent presentation was a guy talking about how garbage is being flooded into society through packaging of all the products we buy, and it's getting pushed all the way down to the consumer level and now we're expected to train the consumer to recycle that material. And he says we're thinking of it from the bottom up when we should be thinking of it from top down. So that brings up EPR, but also training. If you flood consumers and expect them to do all the work, they're never going to keep up with the flood. So we really need to stop the flood, and then you do that at upper levels. So that was really interesting. October 7th, we had our first youth council meeting. Talked about what worked and what didn't work last year, and we have a great group of kids, and I'm excited to be a part of that group.
All right, Councillor Wilkinson.
Well, October 2nd, I had another walk through Parkland Lodge. It's getting really exciting now. It's sort of finishing work. And on the 4th, I went up to Hinton because it was a big celebration. We were finding out who got the bid for the Hinton build. And it was quite interesting because the 2 top contenders were Scott Builders, who are builders here with a different architect, and the architect here with a different builder. And they were just neck on neck. Anyway, the people who got it are Scott Builders and Coomlin Sullivan Architecture. And I think we'll be very pleased. Scott Builders here have just been absolutely wonderful to work with. And on the 11th, I went to Asia and Stony Plain on behalf of Evergreen Foundation, and I ran for an alternate for the board, and I got elected. I also talked to Laurie Sigurdsson, who was the Minister of Alberta Seniors and Housing, and then she spoke because she'd had cancer last year, and it was really quite moving. She said she had all the cards from the different people in the room, and they were all in her office. We could go see them. But she said she really chose well. She chose a leukemia that was curable, and she is actually cured. She is cancer-free. So she's very happy, and she'd like to come out to Edson too, along with Joe Cece. So there are lots of people wanting to come.
All right.
So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Curry.
Janet, or Councillor
Councillor
Wilkinson, sorry,
Wilkinson.
Councillor Wilkinson, sorry. What is that, what is the building in the parking lot?
That is for their machinery that they need to maintain the building. Looks pretty ugly there, doesn't it?
I just didn't know what it was, okay.
Yeah, we're all walking along and everybody, oh, we thought it was over there, back further, but I mean, it was in the plans, yes. And they're fixing it to look exactly like Parkland Lodge, so
Yeah,
it will look much nicer than what it did at first, just sprouting up this building, and you're like, ooh. But
Okay.
it will look better.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Councillor Chenard.
I was gonna say, isn't that the smoking building?
Probably, no, they have one in the back.
My only one is to report is October 8th, Committee of the Whole, because 2 luncheons we went to, but we're not allowed to report.
Right.
All right, thank you. Questions from media and public regarding items from this council meeting? All right, perfect. I'm just going to call a 5-minute recess, and then we'll move in camera.
And when are they gonna start building?
All right, if I can get a motion, please, to move into camera in accordance with section 17.1 and 4F of the FOIP Act. Councillor Bevan will make that motion. All in favor? Motion carried. All right, can I get a motion, please, to come to adjourn the meeting? Councillor Brown will make that motion. All those in favor? Motion carried.